I still remember the sound of the rain that night. It wasn't just falling. It was whispering something to my heart, something I couldn't explain. The city lights outside my window blurred into 1,000 golden drops, and I kept staring at them, lost in my thoughts. Daniel had sent me a message hours ago. "Can we talk?" Just once, please, I didn't answer. I had promised myself I wouldn't go back, not after everything that happened. But sometimes the heart doesn't care about promises. Sometimes silence feels heavier than words. When he knocked on the door, I froze. My hands trembled as I reached for the handle. And there he was. Daniel. The same brown eyes that once made me believe love was forever. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept for days. "Emily," he said softly. Just my name, but it felt like the whole world paused for that one moment. I didn't know what to say. My voice failed me. So I stepped aside, and he walked in. The room felt smaller than ever, filled with the weight of everything unspoken. For a while, neither of us said a word. The sound of the rain filled the silence, wrapping around us like an old song we both remembered. Then he finally spoke. "I never stopped thinking about you," he whispered. "Not even for a single day." I wanted to say you should have, but I couldn't. My heart wouldn't let me. There was a sadness in his voice that broke something inside me. He looked at me, not with pride, not with regret, but with the kind of longing that hurts to see. I took a deep breath. "Why now, Daniel? After all this time?" "Because I realized," he said, "that losing you wasn't an end. It was the beginning of my emptiness." Those words, they hit harder than I expected. I turned away, pretending to fix the curtain just to hide the tears forming in my eyes. But he saw them. He always did. When he stepped closer, I could feel his presence before he even touched me. My heart raced, my breath unsteady, not out of fear, but because every part of me remembered what it felt like to be near him. "Emily," he said again, but this time it sounded like an apology. I looked up and our eyes met. There was nothing else in the world then, just that look, the silence, and the rain outside our window. We didn't need words. Sometimes emotions speak louder. He reached for my hand, slowly, gently, and I didn't pull away. The warmth of his touch felt both familiar and foreign, like coming home to a place that had changed but still smelled the same. I don't remember how long we stood there. Maybe minutes, maybe hours. Time didn't exist that night. The rain softened, the wind calmed, and all I could hear was the rhythm of two hearts that had once been one. He smiled faintly. "Do you ever think about us?" "All the time," I admitted. "Then why did we let go?" "Because love isn't always enough," I said quietly. "Sometimes timing decides everything." He nodded, looking down. "Maybe this time, the timing is right." I didn't know what to say. The air felt heavy again, not with distance, but with the closeness we were both too afraid to name. I sat down by the window, and he joined me. We talked for hours, about everything and nothing, about memories, dreams, the people we used to be. At one point, I laughed at something silly he said, and he laughed too. It felt real, painfully real. Like the world had paused just to give us one more chance to remember what it felt like to be happy together. When the night grew quiet, he looked at me with that familiar softness in his eyes. "Emily," he said, "I don't expect you to forgive me tonight. I just needed you to know that I still believe in us, even if you don't." I wanted to respond, but the words wouldn't come. So instead, I just leaned my head on his shoulder. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel broken. The rain finally stopped. Dawn was near. The first light crept through the curtains, painting the room in a gentle glow. Daniel stood up, as if ready to leave, but hesitated. "Will I see you again?" he asked. I looked at him, really looked. "Maybe," I said softly. "If fate still remembers our names." He smiled, that same quiet smile that once made me fall for him, and then he walked out. The door closed behind him with a sound that felt both final and hopeful. I stayed there for a long time, staring at the empty chair where he had sat. The warmth of his presence still lingered in the air, and even though nothing was promised, something in me felt lighter, as if the rain had washed away the weight I'd carried for so long. That night didn't give me answers, but it gave me peace. And sometimes, that's all love needs to leave behind. The morning after Daniel left, I woke up to the sound of silence. The rain had stopped, but the world still felt drenched in memory. The chair by the window was empty, yet his presence hadn't left the room. It lingered in the air like the scent of coffee after dawn, faint but impossible to forget. I sat there for a long time, staring at the door he had closed behind him. Part of me wanted to run after him, to ask what that night really meant. Another part whispered that maybe it was better this way. Unfinished, imperfect, but real. When I finally stepped outside, the city felt different. The same streets, the same people, but I was not the same. Every corner seemed to echo something he had said the night before. Maybe this time the timing is right? Was it? Or was it just another moment that life gives you before taking it away again? I walked to the cafe we used to visit years ago. The barista didn't recognize me, but the smell of roasted beans brought back everything. Our laughter, the way he used to draw tiny hearts on napkins when he thought no one was watching. I smiled, even though it hurt. I sat by the window, opened my journal, and wrote one sentence. Some people never leave, even when they're gone. For the next few days, I tried to go back to my normal life. Work, friends, the endless cycle of routine. But something had shifted inside me. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart skipped, hoping, then pretending not to care. One evening, about a week later, I got a message. It was from Daniel. Just 2 words. I'm outside. My heart raced again. I stepped to the balcony, and there he was, standing in the same raincoat, looking up at me with that familiar half-smile. The city lights reflected in his eyes. For a second, it felt like time had folded back to that night. I went downstairs slowly, each step filled with questions I didn't have answers for. When I reached him, he spoke before I could say anything. I didn't come to ask for another chance, he said quietly. I came to say thank you. That night, it reminded me of who I was when I loved you. His words were calm, not desperate. There was peace in his voice this time, and maybe that's what hurt the most. I nodded, trying to smile. And who was that? The version of me that believed love could change everything, he said. We walked for a while without direction. The city was half asleep, the streets glistening under the dim glow of streetlights. We didn't talk much. Sometimes silence says more than words ever could. At a small park bench, he stopped. Emily, I'm leaving the city next week, he said. A new job, a new start. But before I go, I wanted to see you. One last time. The words, one last time, echoed in my chest like a soft ache. I took a deep breath. So this is goodbye? He looked at me gently. Maybe it's a promise, that goodbye doesn't have to mean forever. I wanted to tell him how much I still cared. How, despite everything, part of me still belonged to the version of us that laughed under streetlights and dreamed too loud. But the words stayed inside, locked away by pride and fear. He leaned in slightly, close enough for me to feel the warmth of his breath. You deserve someone who stays, Emily, he whispered. And if I can't be that person, then I'll still wish you find someone who can. It took everything in me not to cry. Instead, I smiled through the tears. You were that person once. And maybe that's enough. He looked down, then back at me, and in that look, everything was said. The love, the loss, the acceptance. When he finally walked away, I didn't stop him. I watched until his shadow disappeared into the city lights. And yet, somehow, I didn't feel empty. There was pain, yes, but also peace. That night, I went home and wrote again in my journal. Sometimes love doesn't come back to stay. It comes back to remind you who you are, days turned into weeks. I stopped waiting for messages, stopped looking for familiar faces in the crowd. I began to read again, travel, laugh. But every once in a while, when it rained, I would remember that night and smile quietly to myself. Not because I missed him, but because for one night, love had found its way back to me, even if only to say goodbye. Months later, while cleaning my apartment, I found something, the napkin from that cafe. The one where he had drawn a tiny heart years ago. I held it for a long time, then placed it inside my journal, between the pages that told our story. As I closed it, I realized something I had never understood before. Love isn't always about holding on. Sometimes it's about letting go beautifully. That night had changed everything. Not because he came back, but because I finally learned that I could move forward. And though he's gone now, a part of me still thanks the rain for bringing him back, if only for one last time.